market has a rising talent. We are ready to find.
They're classy too, man. I can wear this on a date.
People who are most successful are the ones who don't just give up.
Top Bin 90 is proud to welcome the Olszynski Law Firm as an official sponsor. With 2 locations in Charlotte and Concord, the Olszynski Law Firm specializes in personal injuries, criminal defense, DUIs, workers' compensation, and much, much more. With over 12 years practicing law, the Olszynski Law Firm makes it a priority to treat each client with the focused and dedicated representation that they need. For a free consultation in English or in Spanish, give them a call today.
Hi, my name is Justin Olszynski, managing partner of the Olszynski Law Firm, inaugural season ticket holder. Just here to let you know that our law firm, the Olszynski Law Firm, has you covered. We cover criminal law, family law, workers' compensation, personal injury. We're here to support you in your time of need. Give us a call.
Hello, and welcome to an all-new episode of the MLS Corner. The best corner in all of MLS is back. 3 Charlotte games, a lot to talk about. This mini run that we just had. We get a bye this weekend, so it'll be interesting to see what we have to do this weekend, because without any Charlotte games, I don't know what my life is. I just sit in my room, lay down in the fetal position sometimes and wonder on those Saturday nights, what will I do without Charlotte FC in my life? With that said, I've got Mr. David Palma from the Yeti Clan here tonight. How are you tonight, my man?
Doing good. Feeling great. Coming off that tie from the weekend from Nashville. Nashville was great, so appreciate you having me, pal.
Nice. And we got our boy Lee from CLT FC Fan TV. Happy belated birthday again to you, my man. How was it? I heard you were just drunk all weekend.
I wasn't drunk all weekend, just slightly buzzed. It was a long weekend, man. It was a long weekend, and but it was fun. Nashville was fun, man.
Nice.
Shout out to David and his body shot.
Nice. And then, of course, my man, Mr. Brian Bam Maurer Media. How are you tonight?
I'm doing good, man. I'm hyped. I qualified for Champions League this year. First year with the Dropping Points show. Already qualified for MLS Fantasy Champions League. I'm like having an expansion season like St. Louis, bro. And Jorge, you know what you're going to be doing. You're going to be watching Messi the whole weekend.
That's a good point. Yeah. Nice. Awesome. Well, let's get into it. A weekend in Nashville. Charlotte FC, we'll start off with this game. Draw 1-1 with Nashville SC. A game, to be honest, it was boring for like 85 minutes. And then it got good at the end, right? Like, if you're just watching it, I actually want you guys to do a little something different for me, both David and Lee, because you guys were actually there. So I kind of want you guys to talk a little bit about your experience in Nashville, how it was. What was it like thinking we were going to win last minute, and then boom, they give that penalty again? It's the same thing. Another penalty, another burn mistake, another late Mukhtar goal. David, I'm going to have you start us off.
Man, Nashville was great. Atmosphere was awesome. The walk to the stadium was tough. That was a tough walk to the stadium, man. It was hot. But in the stadium, beautiful stadium, man, they have a great intro for their players, man. That intro for them, top notch. Shout out to Nashville for setting that up. That stuff it gives you chills watching that. It's a little intimidating, man. Like you said, it was kind of boring for the first, I would say 90 minutes. We watched 90 minutes for only 4 minutes of football to happen. But dude, every time Honey Mukhtar got on the ball, they get loud, man. That's their MLS MVP, man. They get loud every time Honey Mukhtar gets on the ball. But overall, it was a great experience. A big heartbreak at the end because, in my opinion, I was literally in the corner looking straight at Byrne just get that penalty called against him. I didn't think it was a penalty, but it is what it is. I would at least like them to go to VAR. It's the 96th minute, 2 over the stop time that they done called. At least check it. Like, not even a decision to go look or nothing, man. It was tough, to say the least.
Very, very tough. What would you say was the best part of your weekend in Nashville?
Best part of my weekend. Oh. Um
He's like, I can't talk about it. It's
yeah,
rated.
there
I
was a
got video
couple
of it.
things, but I'll say just celebrating that Scott Arfield goal, man. That was awesome. I thought we were gonna win it. We celebrated hard, dude. It got lit, and then big heartbreak, right? 2 minutes after, dog.
Big heartbreak. Lee, my man, the birthday boy. How was your weekend in Nashville?
I mean, I had a blast, man. I had fun hanging out with the Yeti clan and Southbound and Crown, and then we hooked up with everybody at the tailgate, like City and all those. So, yeah, man, it was just a good weekend.
Nice, awesome. Is there like a favorite moment that you had during the weekend?
Favorite
I
moment?
heard your did you do some karaoke too?
I don't sing, man. That was the Southbound and Crown boys. I backed out of that. I just sat and had my beer, man.
I got you.
Cheered them on to embarrass themselves. But yeah, I mean, it was a good time, man. I personally think Kalina's at fault for that penalty. I think he could have come out and got that ball and fell on it. From where I was sitting, it did look like Nathan pulled him down. So, but like David was saying, it would have been nice for them to go to VAR, but they didn't. And 1-1. I mean, for that 2 minutes, man, we were stoked. We were gonna steal those 3 points, man, and go on home, man. We were gonna like go extra hard that night.
I
But
couldn't believe it, bro. I couldn't believe it.
Charlotte, man.
For real. That is the saying of the year, bro. Charlotte is gonna Charlotte. So
Yep.
let's talk a little bit more in depth about that game. I first want to start with the lineup that we saw. Obviously, we saw a change on the wing with Yazviak coming in for De Jagre, and also we saw a midfield trio of Brandt, Westwood, and Jones. Yere got his first start. Privet and Molanda, it's seeming like it's going to be a really good center back duo. And Nathan Byrne. Talk to me about just the lineup so far, Brian. What were your initial thoughts?
I mean, I think with De Jagre out, I mean, Uzviak is likely the next man up at that point. I was pretty displeased with just the lack of final production, which I think has just been a constant theme this season. I mean, they went 51 minutes without a shot. From minute 20, Swiderski's shot, and minute 20 to minute 71 with Bronico's shot. 51 minutes is a crazy amount of time to not have a shot. That's why everybody's talking about how boring the game was, is that duration of time right there. And so for me, that was the big issue. Yeah, that was the big issue right there. Privet and Molanda have been, honestly, for me, in a short period of time, but like kind of a bit of a revelation for two pretty young players, especially Privet being as inexperienced as he was. But they locked down Hani, I felt like, for that like high level of a player to like really press him often when he had the ball, really kind of put some pressure on him. I mean, he still was getting shots off, but there was always somebody on him around the box. And I was impressed by that, their ability to kind of contain him for the most part, at least as much as you can, a guy like him. So I was impressed with that. But other than that, I mean, we had tons of possession and couldn't do much with it. So it was a little bit, the thing I liked the most about this game was Latanzio made quick, decisive changes. When things weren't happening, he made 3 subs and was just like, look, we haven't had a shot in 30 minutes. Like, something's changing. And so I was kind of, for me, I was glad that he went out and like was aggressive in that way, which is something I think a lot of fans have been calling for.
For sure. Aggressive, yes. To me, though, and we'll get into it a little bit, but first let's talk a little bit about Ben. Ben is not a winger. I think the last 3 games that we've seen Ben start, he really hasn't played well, in my opinion. And so I get like this is a new role for him as well. And you know what? Like, I'm not like trying to blast him or anything, right? He's still young, but to me, he's not as effective on that wing as he could be. Right. So, I mean, he's come in and played some really great games for us. Unfortunately, in that front 3, I think he's been the weakest. Right. I mean, it sucks that we lost De Jagre on Wednesday because I really liked some of the link up play he was doing. He seems like he's going to be on that technical level with Karol Swiderski. Right. But, Ben, your overall thoughts on Ben so far, Lee?
I mean, you pretty much nailed it. I don't think he had a very good game. Definitely not against Nashville. There was a couple of times where he was wide open. If he had just hit it first time, it would have been either a brilliant save or a goal. But like his first touch was bad. His decision making was slow. I don't know. He just seemed off, and maybe it's just because he's out on wing. But that's definitely not his place to be, for sure.
For sure. And also, I want to talk a little bit about this as well, right? The decision to take out Karol Swiderski and put in Enzo, right? Like pretty much man for man. I got to say, and I said this online, and some people disagreed with me, but you cannot take off Karol Swiderski, right? I mean, this is the second time he's come off in minute 55, minute 60, whatever it was, on the Wednesday game against Orlando. He's your DP for a reason. The ball he put into Westwood in the Orlando game, who else on our team can give you that kind of ball, right? Obviously, Westwood missed it and it went wide. But this is the ability that we do not have. We don't have the luxury, in my opinion, of taking out Karol. And people are like, well, he's tired. He looks kind of gassed. But to me, we don't have a game this weekend, and he's going off to Poland. Cool, Poland, whatever. I care about Charlotte FC. I don't care about Poland. You know what I'm saying? They could do whatever the hell they want. But I needed that man to be in that game for 90 minutes, right? So I want you guys to kind of give me your opinions on that Karol being subbed out and Enzo coming in. David, I'll start with you.
I mean, I'll agree with you, man. Unfortunately, when we've seen them together, they don't play well together. But like you said, that's our DP for a reason. We can't take him out at the 55th minute, 60th minute. You have to have Karol Swiderski out there. It doesn't matter if he has tired legs or anything. That's one of your players that is technically able to make plays, knows where to be, just has more experience, is a DP for a reason. And if you want to win that game, you take the risk of having Copetti and Swiderski out there. So I'll 100% agree with you on that.
Nice. Brian, you and I kind of have been back and forth about this. Give us your thoughts.
Yeah, so I feel like if Lattanzi is going to stick with a 4-3-3, and Karol has already come out and said he doesn't seem like he likes the midfield position, and if he's not going to switch to two at the top, I mean, he almost has to take Karol off if he's going to put Enzo on. And here's the other side to this. While he did make that brilliant pass into Westwood, that's the only play he had in those last two games. That's the one key pass he made in 2 games. He also had 2 shots, but it hasn't looked like scoring in those 2 games. And if you have a DP on the bench as well, I can see why he's willing to take him off and swap them if he's going to stick with his 4-3-3 and stick with his guns. So I do agree with you as well that there's an aspect where it's like it would be nice to see our most talented 11 out there, and that includes both Karol and Enzo. But if Lattanzi is not going to play like that, then it's also like, and Karol doesn't seem like he wants, based on what he said in multiple interviews now, it doesn't seem like he wants to play in that situation, and he thinks he needs to be at the 9. So it's a tricky spot to be in, I think,
towards the end of that
just
game,
with having 2 strikers like that.
It looked like towards the end of that game, though, we did switch to a 4-4-2. Like, for me, it almost felt like we were playing that. And, I mean, to your point about playing Karol and Enzo, I mean, it would have been perfect timing, right? I mean, but regardless, I mean, I still think, I don't know, man. I would have just kept Enzo off.
I mean, so here's what we have going on right now at Charlotte FC, right? You know, if we roll the window back to January or even part of last year when Karol started getting hot, you know, Zoran came out and said, you know, we're not selling this player. You know, you got to give a crazy amount of ridiculous money for us to even consider it, right? 6 months ago in January, Karol came out and said, I want to win something here. I want to win a trophy, right? You know, now fast forward to the last couple of weeks, it's been more of, you know, hey, Karol has come out and said, you know what, like, I want to play in a top 5 league. His agent coming out and saying, there was a good offer on the table, right? From what my sources are telling me, right? I can't confirm this just yet. That bid was between 6.5 and 7 million per a source that I have, right? So I mean, to me, that's not enough to let Karol Swiderski go, anyways. But you can already tell that from that camp, they're ready to go. Swiderski is not happy at Charlotte FC. I can tell you that for a fact, right? Now add on that he wants to play the main nine, and with Lattanzio's system, as we're discussing now, and we had this conversation on this show a couple of weeks ago where we talked about, hey, if Enzo's healthy and Karol's healthy, how do you fit both of them in, right? And we're realizing that they're both not going to fit in, right? So like everybody's saying in the comments section, Karol is on his way out, right? It's going to be very, very difficult unless there's a lot of changes in the front office for us to see Karol with a Charlotte FC jersey next season, right? So having said that, right, now it becomes a power struggle between playing your DP striker, playing a certain formation, right? And I'm like, is this beneficial to us or is it not beneficial, right? I want to see Karol Swiderski on the field for 90 minutes, right? If what's going on internally is preventing him, like Brian said, if he's coming out and saying, I want to play the 9, and I don't know what conversations him and Lattanzio were having, but it looks like if he's not going to play the 9, then he's not going to be on the pitch, right? So are we at a point where it's a disadvantage to us, or is it kind of an advantage where Karol is pissed off and says, yo, I'm going to ball out while I have the minutes I do, right? And so I just want your guys' thoughts on how you see this development, because it's a very interesting thing that we're watching in real time. I'll start off with you, Brian.
Yeah, well, I think competition is generally good, but I think the issue is with these two guys, I think they think they're just at this high level, like they're at the level of MLS to where they almost don't need to compete. And I think they're kind of, and they also are both kind of drama queens, right, in their own way. So they also have a weird dynamic in terms of their personalities where they kind of like yell at, they yell for the ball. They really want to play like in a certain way for themselves, which is what you want from a striker. But the thing is, when you have two of them, I think that dynamic becomes harder and harder, especially again when Lattanzio plays in a system where it's like we want one guy at the top being that main guy. And so I think that's for me long term. I mean, hopefully short term it does, right? It does benefit them in terms of like, okay, you guys have like 6 months or like a few months left to, not even 6, like 2 months left to prove whether or not you can earn that transfer in the winter. So like beat each other out for it and see who can get that transfer out. Cause it seems like at least for sure Karol wants to go. So like, if you can't beat Enzo out, like, is he going to get a big transfer in the winter? Like, that's the other thing, the side of it as well. So I think short term, the competition could help.
For sure. I can see that happen, but also per a source that I have, Enzo's not happy here either, right? So, this is where it comes back to, like, we can blame a lot on the buildup of this team, right? Like, what was said to Karol Swiderski at the beginning of the season, right? To warrant him saying, hey, we're going to play you at the 10 because you went all out and invested in a 9. You know what I'm saying? Like, and now we're in a kind of an awkward position for both of them where, like, you have two DPs competing for the 9, right? Like, what are we doing here, Lee?
Yeah, I mean, we've debated the Enzo Karol debate has been going on all season long, right? You got the Enzo camp, you got the Karol camp, and personally, I think Karol's the better of the two. I mean, I think he could, when he's hot, like we said, he's hot. I mean, Enzo really has never been hot. He just gets hot-headed and gets hurt, right? I think, not to shift gears away from your question, Jorge, I think the biggest question here and 4 points that were lost was Kahlina. I mean, that goal against Orlando, Kahlina should have came out and grabbed that ball instead of letting it go to Burn, right? And then this weekend, I think Karol could have come off the line and not been so concrete-footed and just grabbed that ball or at least put the forward off to let it run out. I mean, we could have killed that game off against Nashville. I think that's the biggest question. What the hell has Kahlina been doing? I mean, he cost us last year right in the playoffs, and now we're dealing with this. So
Dang, you were ready. You were ready to throw Kalina under the bus.
no, I'm just saying, right? I
That
mean,
was a hell of a
I
decade.
was like, we haven't even got to that yet, and he's ready.
I think the Enzo Carroll debate
Hey.
is just done and it's just been over. I feel like I've talked about it too much, right? Not saying it's a bad thing. I just think, I mean, it is. They're both want to piss off. Enzo, personally, I don't feel like has ever really wanted to be here, or he wanted to be the main man and didn't get that love at the beginning of the season. It pissed him off. And Carroll was like, hey, if we're not going to get into the playoffs, I don't want to be here either. So, both of them can piss off for all I care.
All right. To end this topic, and before we start your Kalina hate, what the hell has Pat done as well to not even make the bench? There's games, there's moments where we needed a target man like him. We've seen kind of Derek Jones in that role, right? I mean, so here's another thing too. How do you add these players, right, that have come on and produced for you, right? In a guy like Patrick Aguiman, who I don't think he needs to be the starter, but he's a good guy to have off the bench because he provides different qualities that an Enzo and a Karol Swiderski do not have.
Oh, what's the rule for him to come up? It's like games or something.
It's unlimited.
Come up unlimited?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no short-term contract that he has to sign to be up with the team, right? And so I mean, we see him like it's men against boys when he plays with Crown Legacy, and we asked Latanzio about that, or I didn't ask him, but someone in the press conference asked him about that, right? About where's Patrick Ajiman, right? And his answer was like, well, we have a deep squad, and players like this will get rotated, right? But in my opinion, that's kind of a mistake, right? Especially, for a fact that Karol Swiderski is not going to be here next year. You got a good feeling that Enzo's probably not going to be here as well. You need to start integrating some of these players, some of these role players. They need to get more reps into in these games as well. David, your thoughts on the striker dilemma?
Man, it's a tough situation to be in because you want to see them both like prosper in Charlotte because you got two great strikers at hand. I just feel like Copetti has been very unlucky with injury and the hate towards some people that he's got. Like people think that he's hot-headed. I see the opposite. I see a very passionate player, somebody who wants better service, somebody who wants to connect better with the team, somebody who wants to be producing for their team, but is just not getting that and has been very unfortunate with some of the starting 11s that he's been put with. But now that we're seeing some of the things click, I'd like to see Copetti start, and you might see a difference because we are seeing the midfield connect. We are seeing better service into the box. And that's something that we've seen Karol Swiderski struggle these past two games, but we'll see. I don't know. I'm not the coach, but we'll see how it goes.
So here's a question for all of you and everybody in the comment section, right? If you have to start a 9 moving forward till the end of the season, who is it for you? Karol or Enzo? And
Patrick.
one of them has to be benched. Lee, what did you say?
Patrick. Bench both Karol and Enzo, man, and just let Patrick play. Screw it, man. Right?
That is a bold statement.
I mean, he's turning it up though.
Man, I'm on the fence on this one, but I'm gonna go ahead and just say Copetti, just because I feel we've seen more production from Karol Swiderski in the 10 role than the number 9 role.
Dog,
this season.
He's just y'all just have the same barber. That's why.
It is. That's it.
He just has a bias towards Enzo.
Yeah.
Nah, dog. Nah. It's just. I mean, it is what it would be different if we saw Karol scoring goals as the number 9. We didn't see that.
We have seen him. He's been producing at the 9 this season,
but not these
more
past
than
2 games.
Enzo has. More than Enzo has at the 9.
Enzo has been hurt. How long? How long?
More of Karol. He's been more lethal at the 9. Damn. Brian?
I think, we talked a little bit earlier just in the competition short term. I think you stick with the hot hand throughout the remainder of the season and who keep scoring. I think I would give Carroll one more shot. Capetti did come in and earn a PK and score the PK against Orlando. But I'd give Carroll one more start. If the offense looks flat for that 50, 60 minutes, it's just whoever is in and starting, you just auto take them out if you're not producing in that game. And you take advantage of it in that context. I think that's the only way to really play this moving forward for the rest of the season. And then you ship them both out. Start Ajman next season, and then you bring in Luka Modric and Toni Kroos, and let's ball.
Hey, hold on. Nah, no Madrid players.
What?
Enzo hates Jorge. He probably does hate me, and I've done nothing to that man.
He blocked you from day one.
Bro, he did. But you know what? Twitter's gonna take away the ability to block people. So guess what, Enzo? You about to see me again, boy. Anyways,
just tagging in everything, even when it has nothing to do with him.
My personal opinion, I would have Karol Swiderski up top versus Enzo right now. I agree with Brian in terms of whoever has the hot hand, right? You know, obviously, ideally, we would want both of them to play. But if you're just going to start one, I think there's more. Enzo has more tricks up his sleeves, or Carroll has more tricks up his sleeves than Enzo, right? So, I mean, you see that with the technical ability. You saw that with that unreal pass he gave Jalen Lindsey in that Seattle game, right? Enzo can't do that. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't have the technical ability of a Karol Swiderski. So, in my opinion, I would start Carroll all day, every day, unless, like you said, Enzo keeps coming in and just starts scoring left and right. Then you give him the 9. But he's got to earn it as of right now. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like we're going to see both of them start at Charlotte FC for the remainder of the season, which should be an interesting question to ask Lattanzio, right? And so, but yeah. Well, let's talk about some positives too, though. You know, out of these 3 games, right? I mean, we played LAFC at home, we played Orlando at home, and we played Nashville away. 5 out of 9 points in these last 3 games. What do we make of Charlotte FC after these 3 games? Lee, I'll start off with you, and I want to hear from everybody in the comment section as well.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think we played pretty well. I'd say the last 3 games, in my opinion, has probably been the best I've seen Charlotte play as a team. I mean, we're definitely it seems to be clicking. I mean, we're still kind of slow, and we get into that rhythm of passing it back all the time. But the one thing I'm kind of struggling with again is the Kalina and Nathan thing, and I just think Kalina needs to just be more aggressive in the box. He needs to.
Hey, remember the comment of the night is back.
But, you know,
we choke, but we don't sit. Josh, what are you doing, dog? This is a family program. Oh my god.
Damn.
All right, Lee, what were you saying? I'm sorry. That comment caught me off guard.
I don't know, man. I was just saying that I think, you know, these were 3 hard teams to play against, man. And the fact that we wouldn't lose 1 game out of that, right? Nobody expected us to beat LA, right? Orlando, you know, they're a good road team, right? And then for us to go to Nashville and play Nashville too, I mean, Nashville is a good team. And, you know, personally, I just think, you know, a couple of mental errors, and we could have easily had 9 points out of the 3 games, right? I mean, it was just one moment that had us drop those points, and it's frustrating as a fan. It's just, you know, again, I think, you know, I get tired of seeing us always trying to just cross the ball in, right, versus actually just driving through the middle sometimes. You know, let's mix it up a little. Sure.
For sure. I definitely see us improving in the back line, improving in the midfield. Like Brian said, it was very evident this weekend that in that final third, we weren't being effective.
Nobody would shoot. I don't think we had a shot on goal until we scored.
That's right. I think we had 1, and that was it. And then we saw Arfield come on, take a shot outside the box, something that we were hoping for the whole freaking game, and then a goal.
Yeah, I mean,
Beautiful
That's
stuff.
the problem is we're passing out around the box and then we hit it out to the wings and they cross it in hoping it goes in. It's like, damn it, somebody just drive at the defender one time, man.
That's
Yeah,
true.
I mean,
like
shit, we ain't shooting anyways. So if he takes it from me, what difference is it?
for sure. What CJ says, why can't we close out games? You know,
I think the two
I
mistakes were by Kalina, man.
Ooh.
I
I'd
mean,
say
For me,
that
I think
Orlando
it's hard
game
to
is
tell,
Kalina.
man.
you can't really blame him for the
Backline,
penalty
Kalina.
against Orlando, though.
It wasn't a
For me,
penalty
both
against
goals were
Orlando.
backline and Kalina, man. That, like, how many times have you seen that goal scored on any
The penalty
team?
against
The one that got scored on against Orlando. Miscommunication, you let that ball bounce, cross into the back post, and it sneaks in.
Yeah, the goalkeeper should have just
the Orlando one, I definitely 100% right. Like, I think it's bad positioning from his end. Even Latanzio, you could tell in that press conference, he was really, really mad about that goal that we gave up, that the team should have done better, right? And it's been a similar thing all season. And this is why, even though we're playing better, I think on the positive, I think we'll be in and around the playoff conversation till the end of the season. Unfortunately, all these points that we give up are gonna bite us in the ass at the end of the season, right? And also, you know, we have the anomaly of what we could see from Inter Miami at the end of the season, because they just went to LAFC and balled out against in Los Angeles, right? Yeah. On the plus side of those games, Messi might not play, right? So that's positive and negative at the same time, depending on how you want to take it. But Brian, what does this team need to do to close out games?
I mean, I think it just comes down to mental fortitude at this point. I mean, there's nothing Latanzio, I think, can really do tactically to change anything. I honestly think the last 3 games, like Lee had said earlier, I think this is the best tactical performance from Latanzio in his tenure these last 3 games. They had the games, and then it came down to brief moments, and which has been the issue all season. So it's like they have to find a way to cut out those moments. And I don't know what else that is besides just continuing to like play.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people are blaming Byrne. Honestly, I think
it wasn't.
I think it was a penalty. I do think.
No, it was a penalty. I'm not giving that, but I'm saying Kalina could have stopped it. Like that man was standing there on the 6-yard box. As easy as these refs give fouls in the MLS to keepers, all he had to do was go out there and trip over his own shoelaces, and it would have been a free kick. Like he stood there waiting for Byrne to mop it up, man. And Byrne was trying to shield the ball, lost his balance, pulled him down because he didn't want him to go on goal. Kalina should have been out there, man. If Kalina had just come out, man, it would have put everybody off and it would have been a mute point.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely heartbreaking. On the positive side, though, if I told you guys a week ago or 9 days ago or whatever it was that we would have gotten 5 out of 9 points, what would you have told me?
You're an idiot for saying it.
You're the one that said we'd only get 6 points the rest of the season.
Yeah, all right. I'm still not wrong. We'll bring that shit next week when we beat DC United.
You won't be wrong this weekend either. So.
I know, right? See? So I kept like 3 weeks I was right. You're welcome. Next time I'm going to charge you guys for this info.
Nice. Brian, if I told you before that LAFC game we would go unbeaten, win 1 and take 2 draws, would you have signed that?
Yep, absolutely. I would absolutely take these results for sure. I mean, these are Orlando City's looking like a top 3 team in the East. I mean, especially with what's happening in New England, with all their off-field issues. So they're a top 3 team in the East. I think LAFC is still the best roster in MLS, I'd say, and they beat them, And then Nashville is, I mean, tough as hell. They didn't have Zimmerman in, which probably would have made that game even tougher. But I mean, they still have a great lineup in the MVP. So you take those points. It's just a matter but now the DC game, right? The DC game at home. Those next 2 home games, massive home games. They have to get results there, and then these points work out. So it's not just these points working out. It's like how do you perform in those other games coming up where you're playing not the top teams in the conferences, but just like that next tier down, those teams that are around you in the playoff picture. You got to beat them.
For sure. And I think that could come bite us now because you know what? Our next game, David, is DC United, right? Which is, to me, a winnable game. But after that, you've got Philadelphia at home and Cincinnati away, right? Two very, very tough teams, right? So these 3 points become even more crucial next Saturday, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's gonna be good because DC's they're coming off of a hot streak right now, man. Benteke has been balling. So it'll be interesting to see how the back line does against Benteke to shut him down and other players as well. But hopefully we get that dub against them, and then that momentum carries on against Cincinnati, Philadelphia. Because honestly, if we lose, I don't see us making playoffs. But if we continue, if we get wins and draws in between here and there, I do see it make us playoffs. Barely, but I do see it make us making playoffs.
Well,
For
beating
sure.
DC is crucial. I mean, they're only what, win or two ahead of us, and we got a game in hand, and we play them next. So I mean, that's crucial there. And they beat Chicago
Good
what
point.
4-0 this weekend. So I mean, this game's almost like a 6-pointer for us, right?
Yeah,
For
for
real.
sure.
real.
Jesse's right. We need to whoop out those football lines, bro. We're undefeated on them.
Called
Except
me
for when we
Daniel
play.
Ray for a one-game
Also,
contract.
a man we have not talked about that has been coming in clutch for us. 2 goals in the last 3 games, right? Mr. Scott Arfield, right? And so this is a debate that I've had with somebody earlier, and I want your thoughts and everybody in the comment section as well, right? Like, I think obviously in my perfect midfield 3 right now, I would have Jones, Westwood, and Arfield, right? You know, if we're gonna play Swiderski at the 9, right?
So where's Brent going? Is he going in goal or left back?
He's coming off the bench if we need him. But you know, I also think, and someone made this point, you know, maybe Scott doesn't have 90 minutes in him, right? And if he doesn't have 90 minutes, we're seeing him being effective off of the bench.
He did in Scotland, though.
Huh?
That's what he did in Scotland. He was like the super sub, if you will, right?
Super sub, which is great, and that's fine and all, but you're not signing players to come in here with experience to play 30 minutes.
You kind of are when they're 34 years old and you're asking them to run around in 105-degree weather.
I got you. So your thoughts is he needs to keep coming off the bench and not starting, is what you're saying?
I mean, I'd start him over Bronica.
Okay. That's a fair point. Bronico as the number 9, Enzo and Carroll.
Bronico's been playing up pretty high lately, too, man.
He gets in great positions. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
Brian?
I would say it's tough because Arfield has looked great. I think Arfield has looked great coming off the bench. I honestly haven't felt like he's looked that great as a starter. Like in the games when he started, he kind of disappears. And so at this point, I wouldn't really change too much. We've had other new signings come in and end up being super subs, and then everybody says they need to start, and then they start, and then like Shinyashiki, great example last year. Shinyashiki was a super sub. Everybody's like, you got to start him. Why aren't you starting him? Right? And then he starts and is like not the same. You know, I think there's multiple examples of that, right? And so I think Arfield is sort of like the latest example where like he gets a couple goals, everybody's like, he's got to start every game now. He's got to start, and it's just like, man, we've seen this kind of tape play through, and so I'm not like I'm not anxious for him. I don't feel like him starting or not starting is the difference. I think the Yajare is likely the difference for me in terms of when we need him back out there as soon as possible.
That's a fair point. Although I don't think we don't have enough reps of Scott starting, in my opinion, to warrant whether that's true or not, you know? Like, to me, I'm still 50-50 on that. I'd like to see him start a couple more games before I make that decision, you know? But he is more effective right now coming off of the bench. But like you said, right, with De Yagade coming into the team, like, to me, like, when we first signed him, and I said this, like, I'm more cautious on how excited I get on players because I've seen Enzo is the best example of me overhyping somebody and not delivering just yet, right? And so, with that said, right, we're talking about Scott Arfield, we're talking about Breck De Yagade. We really haven't touched on Yede yet, right? So, do you guys think we made enough signings to make playoffs? And is that still in the realm of possibility? Do you guys see us making playoffs after these 3 games that we just played? right? I want to hear from everybody on the comment section, and I'm going to start off with my boy Palma.
I'm going to say yes, because I feel like with the signings that we got a left back that we desperately needed. And we also got some stability in the midfield that we're also seeing now come into the mix. We have good strikers. Unfortunately, they don't click together. But I do feel like the signings that we made are enough for us to get us into the playoffs. But ultimately, it comes down to the players and the team connecting in order for us to make the playoffs.
For sure. I think that too. I think we just need to stop freaking drop. Man, if we could easily have had, like you guys said, 9 points right now. And I would be, even 7, I would be very, very excited about our prospects of making playoffs right now. Now I'm quietly like, I don't want to say we will. It's more of a hope. At the end of the day, realistically, I think we just come short. But Brian, how do you see this? Do you see, I mean, obviously we've seen an impact from our players that have been signed, right? I mean, Scott's the best example. He's locked up 4 points for us.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I think for me, this roster is already good enough to make the playoffs. I think for me, Latanzio was underperforming as a coach up until this point. I think we had a team that should have been able to compete for playoffs before these signings. We've dropped 21 points this season from leading positions. So I think the points were there to be had. They already were capable of being a playoff team. I think what these signings have done have helped make Latanzio more comfortable as a coach, which is, I think, what we're seeing from the last 3 games is his performances are stronger. As a coach, he feels more comfortable setting up the way he wants to set up. So that, for me, is the biggest change. And so I think it just increases that likelihood. But I think this roster should have already been competing. That's what we've been arguing for this whole season. Now it's just a matter of them doing it.
Yeah, that's a great point, bro. I mean, you explained that very well, right? And I mean, Lee, give us your thoughts.
Yeah, I think the players we picked up were needed, right? I think we got the spine of the team good now, right? It's just a matter of bringing that to completion there. But I think what we overlooked or wasn't really paying too much attention to is we miss a decent winger now, man. Like who starts, like if you would, who do you put in as a winger? Vargas, he's been playing all right. He started off well at the beginning of the season. He's dropped off. Throwing Bender out there is not working. Miriam, again, to Brian's point earlier, he was great when he started, when he first got here, and he slowly dropped off to be a bench player. You know, it's like, you know, everybody seems, and to the point of, dropping 4 points or gaining 4 points for Scotty, we could also say we dropped 4 points because of Kalina. So, I mean, I'm just saying it, right? No, I mean, the last 2 games, man, it was both Nathan and Kalina, right? And you would figure out, I don't know. I put it on Kalina, man. We could have had 9 points.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously on that wing, we saw him throw Brecht, although Brecht was kind of everywhere, to be honest with you, linking a lot of play, right? But that's a fair point that you make. You know, I mean, for Latanzio to choose to start Ben and Brecht on the wings, right, for the games, and I'm pretty sure he would have started if he wouldn't gotten injured, right, against Nashville again. That really shows you the lack of confidence he has right now in Kamil Yazviak, in Kerwin Vargas. Mackenzie Gaines isn't even playing anymore, right? So that's a great point that you make, and that's something that we touched on at the beginning of the season, that we needed to see more production from our wingers, right, in order for us to like elevate. But I think other things have overshadowed that. Yeah. And those other things are how bad our defense has been all year.
Yeah.
Right. And another thing is those late goals that we've conceded, right? But the reality is, if we were putting 2-3 goals up instead of 1, maybe 2, we would be having a different conversation, right? And in my opinion, like, Vargas has not done enough, right? Like, this to me was his opportunity to break out, to show us why he's a U22, why they paid over $1 million for a player like him. But in my opinion, he has not done that.
I mean, again, right? I mean, at the beginning of the season, though, Vargas and Jaws looked like to be the players of the season, right, out the gate, right? And then, Jaws got hurt, and then we got Miriam right there with whatever deal was going on with Andre at the time, right? And I don't know. I just think at the time that wasn't important. We needed a left back, obviously, right? We needed something in the midfield. And I don't know. I mean, if we were to do it again, I mean, hindsight's 2020.
Yeah, for sure. I'll trade a Brant Bronick bobblehead for a peel pass for him. I got you, bro. I need 5 bobblehead. I need 5 Brant Bronick bobbleheads. I need 2 La Muerte bobbleheads. I need 3 Minty chains. You make that happen, and we'll talk. All right, Lee. If Kalina, I want to continue on your Kalina hate for a little bit.
Not hate, it's just frustration.
Who would you start over him? Would you put in Marks or Cisniega?
Yeah, Marks would have grabbed that ball, man, there at the end, and he would have taken it. He would have gone down there and got a penalty for us, man. That's how good Marks is. No, I mean, I just think, like some of the comments are saying it, I just don't think the communication's there, or he's not loud enough, right? Yeah. I mean, all he had to do was come out and get that ball. He stood there for like, I don't know, 30 seconds before he even thought about doing it. It's like he froze, right? And that Orlando goal, that was Kalina's. At least go for the ball. Hell, he didn't even attempt to go for it.
Yeah,
like, say something, scream, yell. Somebody asks, is he loud? I honestly don't think I've ever heard him scream in the box until they're trying to damn figure out what they're doing with the goal kick.
For sure, man, for sure. And I mean, the only reason I kind of echo what you're saying is that Kalina occupies an international slot and is on 500K.
Yeah,
right.
That's another reason, right?
Andre Blake is on 750. There's way more than a $250,000 difference between Blake and Kalina, and to me, that's a problem, especially when we're looking at a roster build.
Yep.
Right? If you're paying a goalkeeper that much money, there can't be conversations between him and our 3rd round draft pick being started, right? Like, that's a problem, right? So if this happened, like last season, he started off so well, and then he had like a big mistake, and you were like, you know what? We can forgive it because he's been so good during the season. I forgot what game that was, but it was a howler. And I was like, you know what? It's fine. He's played well. It's going to happen every once in a while. But now it's happened more. There's more instances where we can point to where now, like, I see what you're saying. 6 months into Charlotte FC, we were like, yo, Kalina is the guy, whatever. Now, you know what? If they look for other options or somebody else comes in, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm so passionate tonight.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I just think the last 2. I mean, and again, and we're right there at the end of the game too. That's what makes it worse, right? It's like, dude, hey, what are they doing? Just like checking out and not playing the full 96 minutes, apparently.
Dang, Brandon says that.
Well, and Kalina honestly played a little bit flat.
I'm just talking about the last 2 games. I mean, it's been. I'm sorry, I was responding to Brandon. I mean, there's been passes back for sure. I mean, hell, half the team screwed up at one point.
Well, I think directly you can blame Burn for both Nashville points dropped.
What?
For the both away and
Nashville.
Home. Yes.
Yeah.
And Orlando.
I'll agree with that.
No.
I feel like it's
Nashville at home with the penalties.
Yeah,
and Nashville away with the penalty.
I'm not going to give him. I'm not going to put it on him for the away game.
Because if he didn't grab him, you don't know if he makes that shot or not either.
I think for me,
I'm talking. I said what I had to say.
All right.
I think Eddie brought up a good point earlier when he asked about Kalina being vocal or just asked about the presence that he brings. And I think that's what's really missing for Charlotte, has been missing the whole season, is who is going to be the commanding presence along the back, whether it's Kalina or somebody in the back line. We have a strong, like a young, inexperienced center back pairing right now, and then 2 veteran fullbacks, and then Kalina at goal. And it just doesn't seem like any of them have taken that mantle of being the commanding presence. And that's I think that that has an effect on set pieces, right? Who's going to be the commanding presence when the ball gets lobbed into the box? I feel like we've had a lot of crosses that were poorly defended throughout the season. And I think a lot of that comes down to just who is the commander, who is the presence back there, not just in skill set, but who just demands to be the leader and keep that back line the way it needs to be.
Matthew says, though, I didn't even know this is a thing, so I haven't gone back and watched the game. But if the commentator's saying that Kalina he doesn't move his feet, I mean, come on, man. It's like
it happened on one shot. It was very poor on one shot. There was the one Hani Mukhtar. I think it was a low shot to the right, and it was like kind of a pretty Hani mishit it, and Kalina like just had his flat foot, and like the commentators mentioned they're like, oh, he made a lot more of that than it needed to be, and it happened a couple times. And Kalina looked off in this last game for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, Brandon's saying, maybe it was Carujo and Walks and Fuchs that was making Kalina look good.
Yeah, but I feel like you saw some blunders still during the season that you're like, especially like the one against Columbus at home, bro.
Like he's a good one-on-one stopper and a
He is,
shot
bro.
stopper, man. But like
He
his
is.
distribution's questionable. His
And
like,
I mean, he's had great saves. But the problem to me is that my expectation for you is higher for what, like, this is how I view every player. What is your role in our roster build? How much are you getting paid? What is your title in this team, right?
well, regardless of how much they're getting paid, you're going out there to play
for
a
a
job.
CEO versus a bottom level employer are different. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know
My
if you can compare
expectations from a DP to a player that's getting paid $800K and is only taking up a small percentage of our roster build is different, right?
I don't think that is, though, because I expect Privet to do the same damn thing that Carroll's doing. You come out there, play with your heart, play for the badge, play for the club, play for the fans. I don't give a shit if they're making $1 a year or $100 million a year.
You also expect Privet to make mistakes every once in a while because he's still young.
No, I don't expect any of them to make mistakes. They all have to play a perfect game so we can get the 3 damn points. And I mean, like even Greg says here, right? How many goals has Nathan saved us because of his speed, right?
He has a lot.
He's come up with some key tackles. And some of the times when he makes those bad fouls or whatever, it's because, it's either that and hope you get away with it or they go on a score.
We did sign a youth keeper. I just think he's too young just now, right? So, but that's all right. Moving on. I want to talk a little bit about our man Chris Haggard leaving Charlotte FC. I got it from a good source that he is going to be leaving Charlotte and heading out to Loudoun United in Leesburg, Virginia, I think it was. It hasn't been announced. It's not official yet. But your boys got you with a whole bunch of information. So, in my opinion, again, this is my opinion. I want to hear from everybody in the comment section and you guys as well. To me, it feels like Latanzio's system failed Chris Haggard. Because in my opinion, he did not get enough opportunity to show what he can do. And I think Latanzio favors more that work ethic kind of player than the player that has the finesse, right? And Chris, to me, has more of a finesse style to his game, right? And players like that have a very short leash with Latanzio. So I just want your guys' thoughts on it. To me, it doesn't make sense to try to push out a player that's a homegrown for us now that could have potential value in the future, right? But Charlotte is making this decision. Your thoughts?
I feel like we could have definitely utilized it more, especially like early in the season.
Go ahead, keep going.
No, like I said, I feel like we could have utilized him more early in the season when we didn't have Westwood and those key players in the midfield when we were lacking people. But like you said, his style of play didn't favor Latanzio at all. So very unfortunate for Chris.
Lee?
Yeah, I think he's a tidy player. Anytime I've actually seen him play, I've been impressed. You just said it and killed the conversation, really. He just doesn't fit our system, right?
For sure, and that's my thing, though. Like, there's still value there that you can, have in a player like him, and for the future as well.
Are we loaning him out or actually selling him on?
So I think he's going to be loaned out, but
possibility he could come back, right?
His contract is up at the end of the year. So, it's a loan, but once that loan's done, he doesn't have a contract with Charlotte anymore right now. So
I wish him the best. he seems like a decent fella, and I think he's a good technical player.
Yeah.
Right? I think he just needs to be in more of a, I don't know, he would probably do well at Miami.
Or Spain. He's like a Spain kind of player with his finesse,
Well, yeah.
And with that said, Chris is leaving, but here's a good little nugget that y'all are getting again on MLS Corner. This next transfer window, we're going to see a lot of changes. From what I hear, we're going to see about 10 to 12 players leave Charlotte FC.
Oh, so we're going to be a franchise team again?
So that is a lot of players that the club wants to move on, some players that want to leave. It's a mixture of all of it, right? So with that said, you know,
but that puts a lot of pressure on Zoran there, man, because look, you screwed up once building this team, and you're going to get a whole new clean slate from what you're telling us, and so he's got to do it twice.
Well,
dude, that third season, if you don't show up, man.
A lot of that's going to depend on how you finish the season, right? If you make playoffs and you get eliminated in playoffs, it's more of a, you know what, despite all the odds, we made playoffs, right? If you don't make playoffs, and
are you talking about this season or next season when you say?
I'm talking about how the perception of all these players leaving applies next season, you know?
But that's what I'm saying, though, right? I mean, we are essentially telling Zoran, go ahead and build this team for a second time if 10 to 12 players leave. Right?
But that's what I'm saying. But it's depending on how you finish the season, right? Because if you do well, you can say, "Hey, we're gonna move on some players that all of you know want to leave, aka Swiderski, right? Aka whoever else that is, right?" And also you can say, "Hey, but we're gonna build something better, right?" Because you were able to like these 2 seasons.
That's
like we're not St. Louis, where we're looking at their first season, and if they move 10 to 12 players, you'd be like, what the hell are they doing? They have a good thing going on. Versus here, first season, all right, we kind of did something, didn't quite make it. This season, kind of a similar thing where some players look good, some players don't. So it's all going to depend, in my opinion, on how we finish the season, that these players moving on it is very likely to happen.
But I mean, that's essentially – go ahead, Brian.
Well, I was just wondering, like, because how many of those will actually then be replaced with new signings? Because I feel like I'd imagine a decent amount of those spots would be filled up by Crown Legacy FC players, right? Getting moved up. I imagine there's probably 4 or 5 guys at least that they're considering moving up from Crown Legacy FC next year, based on how well they've performed this season at Crown Legacy.
For sure. And Josh, I got news for you, my man. Latandio, as of now, is here for that rebuild. As of now. But yeah, I mean, yes and no, because it's also going to depend. So with Karol Swiderski leaving, that opens up a DP spot. Say Enzo also gets out, that opens up another DP spot, you know?
How's it get rid of Jaws as well?
Right. Well, I mean, Karol out for sure. Jan, I'm like 85% sure he's gone. Right. So I mean, that pretty much means that Camille will probably be gone. So that's 3 pulls out, right? Add Karol in there, that's 4. So that's 3 DPs that could potentially leave at the beginning of the next season. So it is a rebuild, but it is a chance to try to get it right again in a quick manner, which I feel like it's difficult to let DPs move on and structure in MLS. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I just hope that they've already scouted the players and actually had real conversations with these new players they're planning on bringing in to make sure it's something that they're willing to entertain. Because otherwise, we're gonna do like we almost had that guy, we almost had this guy, we almost did this. Just imagine if he hadn't got in trouble while he was living wherever, right? It's just like I just want to know that there's going to be concrete players coming in and an upgrade, right?
For sure. I just want to know too, like. There's so many uncertainties too, because you know what, like I don't even think the front office is 100% sold on Latanzio, right? So it's really like I said in our last show, Latanzio's really playing for his position these next couple of games, and I think if he doesn't make playoffs, we have to make those changes. You know, if he makes playoffs, they can sell that to us, although not many people will buy it. But at the end of the day, they accomplished their target.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, though, since the 3 players have come in, I would say, like, I feel like we've been playing better ball. Was that a Latanzio decision or was it a Zoran decision or both, right?
For sure.
I mean, I wouldn't be sad if Latanzio leaves, but I just noticed lately that we've just been playing better. You know, and I don't know if it's like we finally got a core group of players that are playing together. Just, I mean, some of his subs can be. Anyways,
also believe in
I'll praise him for his subs this past game, though. That's it. I feel like they were needed at the time that he done them.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if like we're seeing an improvement in the team, if he goes on and we win a whole bunch of games and make a deep run in playoffs, to be Latanzio out just to be Latanzio out wouldn't make sense. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? You know, so to me, I'm judging based on what I see. Right now, I'm not completely sold, but that doesn't mean the team can't finally play how he wants to play,
Yeah.
right? But what I've been preaching these last couple of weeks is you have a short window to prove that now because you didn't do it the first 6 months of the season, right? So you got to do it now, you know? So some interesting stuff happening. We'll see. I left you guys with some very, very good nuggets tonight. And that's why you hop on MLS Corner, because you'll hear things that you may not hear anywhere else. With that said, my man Palma, where can we find you at?
You can catch me at CLTFC Yeti Clan on Instagram and YouTube. We have a vlog dropping from the Wednesday night game against Orlando. And then shortly after that, we'll have one for the Nashville trip. That's going to be a good one. And yeah, that's where you can find me.
Nice. Lee, my man?
You can find us at on all the socials. If you don't know by now, CLTFC Fan TV, outside the stadium after the games, Wednesday night live shows. Yeah, we're doing stuff. Sorry, I'm still tired from Nashville.
At Kalina Hater TV, right?
Yeah, that's actually .com actually. So yeah.
Nice.
I don't hate Kalina. I'm just frustrated that he should have came off the line and quit wearing those damn concrete boots, man. Get him a new contract with Adidas if he's not with somebody else.
Nice. Brian, where can we find you at?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Bam Mauer Media. You can also find all my written content at topbid90.com, and also running an MLS fantasy show with Blake Eshelman from MLS Gone Wild, dropping points, and we're recording a new episode tomorrow for that.
Nice. Awesome. Shout out to Jester for his birthday. You know, I don't know your real name. Happy birthday. Hopefully you have a great day.
Nice.
Tomorrow, you know, no Charlotte game, so you can't be mad or happy.
But you can tune into our show tomorrow. Give you another
For
shout.
sure, you can.
We're for the fans.
You can find us at TopBid90 on all our socials. We got some cool stuff dropping soon as well. With that said, everybody have a good night. Thanks for hopping on. Good.